Asma here from Youth Speak, and we're so excited for another episode of the Speak Real podcast. We'll be sharing one-on-one stories with our youth speakers about the lessons they've learned through their life experiences. Today, I'm here with Sumaira, who's going to talk about her journey and struggles with her mental health. Sumaira, how are you doing?
Hey, Asma, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you here with us. So I want to start off by asking you, what is a characteristic you aspire to be?
So I think a characteristic for me would be compassionate. So very compassionate. It's something I want to be with myself as well as the people that I come across in my life.
I love that so much. And I
Thank you.
think from working with you and hanging out with you, I feel like you definitely are compassionate, like one of the most I know.
Oh, thank you.
So what's the biggest, like if you were to pick maybe one or two, what's the biggest challenge that you faced on your journey?
So I think my biggest challenge was probably going through depression myself and anxiety. So this actually started when I was in the last year of university. I had just a lot of things on my mind. I was trying to start something up in Bangladesh, which is where I was born and where I'm from. And I was kind of very worried about my own future. And on top of that, I think the last year of university was just so much studying. So it started with very low mood swings and a lot of just blanking out. Like I would try to speak, but I realized that I was very much in my own head. And this affected all my relationships in the sense that no one was able to really speak to me without me kind of getting really down on myself and kind of blasting off in anger and stress. So I remember during that time, after I finished my last year, I moved to Bangladesh to work. And that was when I really realized that something was wrong, that it wasn't normal, because I started to feel this sense of fear inside that something was going to happen. I couldn't go to sleep at night and I couldn't talk to people, which is something that I really loved to do. And this probably went on for the next 2 years that I lived there. It was a lot of being afraid for the weekends because I didn't want to be by myself.
Mm. So it's incredibly tough. I know that those kind of transitional times, along with another move, it can really amplify those feelings that we might already be feeling. It just makes it even more that, the not sleeping or, while
Mm-hmm.
adjusting to new environment. Like I find that whenever I go back to Pakistan, it's like a reverse culture shock because
Yes.
I've gotten used to here and then, it's like getting used to it again. So
I definitely resonate with that reverse culture shock because I thought, I have already lived there once. There shouldn't be any problems in adjusting. But I think it was, again, for me, the support system. So not being around my family, I guess my parents, and moving back alone, it was more difficult.
oh, incredibly difficult, especially without that kind of support. So throughout your struggle, what were some of the ways you were able to overcome it?
So through my struggle, I think one thing that really helped me was when I was feeling these dark thoughts, I remember everyone would tell me to write. So I love writing. And even from a young age, I used to write poetry. And during that time, I had stopped writing completely. I just felt afraid of whatever I would write on the piece of paper because it would be so twisted, and I would be kind of afraid of the words myself. But I realized that once I did start writing, it kind of helped me realize that when I was feeling low and in these states, I would write something. And when I was feeling better, even if it was slightly, the thought difference was so drastic that it helped me identify that, okay, that's actually not true. I can have thoughts that aren't true. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a huge thing. And in Bangladesh, I actually came across a very great group of people that we did spoken word poetry together. And I was really able to express a lot of kind of the fears and a lot of the challenges I was facing with depression and anxiety at the time through poetry. So it was kind of a release for me.
That's incredible. I love that. Like poetry, it's one of the most kind of like best ways to express yourself because it's so emotional and it just channels your feelings, which I think it's important that you like it's really awesome you mentioned that you know how that relationship between your thoughts and your emotions
Mm-hmm.
whether we know or not, they're often really connected. And I find that too, writing for me, I like journaling, so it really helps me to be like, is this thought helpful or not? Or you know, you get to see those connections as well. Like, oh, I'm feeling this way because I'm having this thought. So it's really awesome you're able to find that, and even a community through it. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
And was there any kind of advice that maybe the poetry circle or anyone in your life gave you that really helped you through this?
Actually, there is one person that made like a very big difference in a very, it was a very random moment as well, because I never would imagine that that would kind of trigger me to seek more help. But I remember I had taken a trip at that time to Vietnam with my friends. And on that trip, uh, I kind of tried to ignore all my feelings and kind of push it down because I love traveling a lot. So I was like, I should be having fun. But I didn't realize that every night those feelings of being alone, being scared, and being vulnerable would come back. And it was specifically one night I was in a room that I shared with these other roommates, but that night it was completely alone. I was completely alone, and the room was empty, and it just triggered me that feeling of loneliness. And I just remember breaking down and crying. And as I cried, I just kept spiraling downwards to the point where I realized that I wasn't safe. So I called my partner on the phone and I was just crying, and I told him I loved him. But he kind of could see the pain in my voice. So he told me, please find somebody and seek help. So he said it could be anyone, just find someone. So I messaged a girl who I had met recently, just 3 days earlier, and who I had connected with. And I just texted her that I'm not okay. And she just ran to my room. She was knocking on the door and she just hugged me. And I just broke down. And I remember the whole night she was with me and she patted my back and she told me something I tell myself during the darkest times, even when I feel alone or maybe feel in a down mood nowadays, is that it is okay not to be okay. And that right now, you don't need to force yourself to feel okay. You just need to accept that you are feeling. And that was just revolutionary for me at that time because it really made me accept emotions. So that is something that I still hold with me.
That is incredible and such a simple but really mind-blowing sort of thought that it is okay not to feel okay. We often, it's like that added stress or that added sadness attached to it when we feel bad about feeling bad. And so it's incredible that you know you're able to say that to yourself and still carry it with you to this day.
Thank you.
problem. So, if you could go back in time, what would be some advice that you can give yourself?
I think if I could go back in time and give myself a piece of advice, it would definitely be tying into what I aspire to be self-compassionate. Be compassionate with yourself, be compassionate with the people around you, because I think that made the biggest difference for me was to show myself acceptance of my feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Yeah.
Hmm, that's incredible. And absolutely you're right. It's hard to, well, not hard, but we have that compassion towards others when we have it for ourselves. It all comes from that self-love. It's like that base, where we accept ourselves, it's just natural for us to be compassionate towards others. And it's really awesome that you found that connection and were able to find that self-acceptance.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, that when you are being kind to yourself, it's just so natural for you to be kind to the people around you. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so in your stories, you've shared some really awesome messages about um, how your move and your challenges affected your mood, how you were able to overcome that and find your social circles and support that can help you, as well as finding the self-acceptance within yourself, that can help you find that power within. Um, so what does I'm wondering, what does self-acceptance mean to you today?
That's a good question. Well, self acceptance, I think today it means that whenever I am having a bad day, I allow myself to have it. Whenever I feel like crying, I allow myself to cry because there were moments in my life where crying, I just kind of told myself that not to cry because I thought it was something negative, but now I'm realizing that it's okay to cry. And before I used to, you know, use the word sensitive as with such a negative connotation, but now I accept that I am quite sensitive as a person, and I allow myself to be that every day.
That's
Yeah.
awesome and beautiful. There's a power in sensitivity, really, that you're able to have that extra bit of kindness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So, Samara, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate you sharing your story with me, and with everybody joining us. Before we go, just one last question. If you could describe yourself in one word, how you are today, what would you say?
If there was one word that I would use to describe myself today is probably caring. So I know it's very similar. It's probably a synonym for compassionate, but I think it's something I aspire to be and something I embrace as a part of myself even today. So I just hope to kind of expand that as well. But yeah, caring.
That's incredible. Honestly, I feel like caring for me, it's kind of like to do with your behaviors and how you act towards people, which is like, I guess, slightly different from compassion, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
your words and how you're talking. And I find that with you, like I see both. Like I see you being caring towards others and always helping out with stuff. So it's really awesome that you see yourself that way too.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
Oh, thanks. And thank you once again for joining us today, Samara, and for tuning in, for all our audience, for tuning in to this episode of the Speak Girl podcast. If you want to hear more stories, please subscribe, comment, like, and share, and join us next time. We're here every Thursday at the same time. And if you want to help support our Youth by Youth projects online, you can visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and help spread youth mental health awareness. And before I wrap up, I want to once again thank TD Bank Group for helping to make this podcast possible. Thanks, everyone.